Now, I want to ask you about Iran, because we've seen there that the women have taken to the streets. They have been protesting initially against these anti-hijab laws and the morality police, but this has turned into an anti-regime protest involving both men and women. How do you see this finishing? Is it going to be crushed, or is this protest going to lead to regime change, perhaps?
I mean, I think these protests are the beginning of the end. The only question here is, when is that actually going to take place? If you remember the Islamic Revolution in 1979, which I know you do, it took 15 months for that to happen. So I think right now we need to be patient. We need to encourage Western leaders, in particular in Australia, to have a very strong policy when it comes to Iran. That means sanction enforcement. That means recognizing the IRGC as a terrorist organization. And ultimately, it means revoking recognition of the Islamic Republic because they do not have legitimacy. The majority of Iranians inside and outside of Iran oppose this regime. They want regime change. That is the demand of the protests from day one. It's not about reform. And I think that needs to be made very clear to elected officials in all democratic countries.
We have seen some support from certain politicians in the West, but really, it's been fairly weak. It's been the most mildest sort of sanctions that they could conjure up. And this week we learned this shocking story about the Iranian regime monitoring expats here and on Australian soil, an Australian citizen. Thankfully, our intelligence agencies were able to get involved and stop that, but I'm sure it's not an isolated incident. Is that something we should worry about?
Absolutely. I mean, this regime has been very active in exporting terrorism, in espionage against foreign nationals on foreign soil. We know that they have kidnapped multiple people, including American citizens who are living in Los Angeles while visiting the United Arab Emirates, for example. Just today I saw in the UK that 15 different foreign nationals based in the UK had been targeted for assassination or kidnapping by the Islamic regime. So this is a huge problem, and it's another reason that Western governments, in particular the US, Canada, Australia, and all of the EU, need to take this much more seriously than what we're seeing so far.
Now, you're an Israeli American. I wonder how you feel about your government, the American government, emboldening the Iranian regime, empowering the Iranian regime. The Biden administration, again, seems to be eager to reignite this Iran deal that Trump junked. Where do you see that, and why are the Democrats so eager to go down this road again?
I think it's absolutely shameful, and I've been very vocal about this from day one. There is absolutely no reason whatsoever that any nuclear negotiations should even be being considered by the President of the United States. It's a slap in the face to every single protester who is on the ground risking their lives. There are men, women, and children. There are children who have been sexually assaulted by this Islamic regime, and yet we still have the leader of the free world who's willing to negotiate with this regime. It's outrageous and completely unacceptable.
And yet we do have, again, many Jewish members of the Jewish community who support the Democrats, who, despite their reservations about this very crucial policy, are very much loyal to the Democrats. Do you think this policy will change that, or are their support for the Democrats based on a number of factors outside the foreign policy?
I mean, I wouldn't categorize it as specific to the Jewish community in particular. Of course, historically, the Jewish community does vote statistically Democrat in the United States. The Iran issue is one that has pushed voters the opposite direction, and frankly, it should. And that shouldn't be exclusive to the Jewish community either.
True.
It should be across communities. Point. Of course, any minority group should not be voting for any party that is going to be soft on Iran, and that goes for, Latinos, for African Americans, for any group. Why? Because this Islamic regime, we have seen for 44 years that they systematically target minorities, that they're destabilizing, of course, the entire Middle East, that they are responsible for the highest number of deaths of Arab Muslims in the Middle East. Now, they'd like you to believe, of course, that it's Israel. In fact, it's actually them. And that's not even speaking about what they're doing in Europe, in Latin America, in the United States. I mean, they're responsible for, frankly, much of the turmoil in the world today. The entire world would be safer and a better place if this regime fell, and when this regime falls.
I hope you're right. I hope it happens in our lifetime. For a long time, I didn't think it would, but perhaps, like you're saying, be patient. The Iranian revolution, the Islamic revolution, took 15 months, so we could be halfway through it. Emily, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it.